Hi, Brian Peddar. I'm here in Khanawake with Chief Harry Rice. Thank you so much, Harry, for having me today in your home. How are you? Let me say in Mohawk, Gwe.
Gwe.
And how do we spell that for our viewers?
KWE with I guess it would be an accent aigu or an accent
Accent
grave.
grave,
One of them.
Yeah, and so Gwe meaning hello. Thank you so much for having me here in your home. It is really a privilege. Where are we right now for people to, can you tell us a little bit about your community, please, Harry?
Yeah, well, we're, like you said, we're at my home. We're in Khanawake, which is just off the south shore of Montreal. If you travel from Montreal onto the Mercier Bridge, you're essentially in Khanawake. Until you come to another community, Dawson or Chateauguay. Khanawake is probably about 8,000 strong. We're approximately 8 by 8 miles, land-based wise, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're welcome. Welcome to my home.
Thank you. Now, you're part of the Mohawk First Nations. In our talks today, you educated me how there are 3 tribes. What are the names of the tribes, please?
Yeah, part of the Mohawk Nation, there's 3 sister communities. There's Khanawake, obviously, we're here in the South Shore of Montreal. There's Agwazasne, that's just down the river, so to speak, just outside of Cornwall, on the south side of Cornwall. And there's Ganasadage, which is famous for the Oka crisis. It's right next to Oka.
Okay. Now, can you tell me a little bit about you growing up as a youth in this community? What can you tell us?
I was your everyday average kid running around the neighborhood with a love for sport. So I guess you would consider me a jock, so to speak. But I didn't carry that jock mentality. I was just Harry. I just ran. I played baseball. I played lacrosse. I played hockey, football, whatever sport you threw in front of me. I adapted to it, and myself and my friends growing up, we excelled at a lot of the sports. Canoeing was one of my favorites. So growing up, I practically lived underwater in the summertime. When I wasn't playing baseball or lacrosse, or I was on the water. So I was your, maybe not average kid walking around the neighborhood, but I certainly like to think I was.
Okay. Now you went to Katari, do I pronounce it? Katari Elementary School here in your community?
Yeah.
And correct me, but I believe today they have their own Mohawk immersion program where the students coming up, is that the school where they would go?
Well, there's 2 elementary schools in Khanawake. Okay. Katari is one, and the other one is Garinunuha. There's also 2 other schools that do Mohawk immersion programs, which is Gariwanoro and the Indian Way School. But 2 schools that I went to was Katari School and Garinunuha. Katari School, I did grade 1 to 3 there, and then grade 4, 5, and 6, I did up the hill at Garinunuha, and I graduated from Garinunuha. Now, the year after I graduated, they incorporated this different system where they're going to have a Mohawk immersion program. So anybody that wanted to do Mohawk, the parents had the option of putting their children in this Mohawk program, and it was up the hill school at Garinunuha. I say up the hill because we have a little tiny hill here in the village, and you have to actually go up the hill to get there. So it's known as the up the hill school. But they incorporated the Mohawk immersion program there, and that went from grade 1 to 6 at that school. If you just wanted to do the basic schooling, you would go to Katari School, where they would have their French, they would have their classes in Mohawk. And then everything else was in your basic English studies, and that was from 1 to 6. So after I graduated from Garinunuha, it kind of changed the way the education system rolled out after that. So it's a great thing. I think a lot of the community embrace it, and they have the option of sending their children to learn the Mohawk language, or just to get the basic education that's offered everywhere.
And so important for being able to learn one's language, how that connects to identity, culture, self-esteem, empowerment, right?
Yeah, definitely. Two of my older two children are both fluent in Mohawk. I wouldn't say they're first language speakers, but definitely they're second language speakers, which means a lot in the community, because our language is, I hate to say it's dying, but we are losing a lot of first language speakers, and a lot of our elders are passing on, and there's not that many first language speakers anymore. And by first language speakers, I mean the language that you're taught as a child growing up from a breastfeeding baby boy to an adult.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that is spoken to you is Ganyegeha or Mohawk.
Okay.
That's what I mean by a first language speaker. So we had a lot of those before. Now they're kind of dying off, and part of the reason for that is residential schools. They were stripped of their identities. So that's, as for the schooling that I went to, I went my elementary school was done here. I went to high school in Chattagee, was the neighboring community, Howard S. Billings.
Okay.
I went there for a stretch of years. I graduated in 1991,
Mm-hmm.
where I was the student council president of Howard S. Billings, which at the time was, I believe, it was the biggest high school in Quebec numbers wise.
In terms of population,
The population
so many students.
was huge, and I had the I was fortunate to be the student council president of the school at the time,
Okay.
which was big because we just came out of the Oka crisis in 1990. The 1990-1991 school year started, and I was one of the first students to walk in back at Billings, which was it was monumental.
Now, Harry, you're wearing an orange shirt today. What does that orange shirt symbolize?
I wear this shirt for my dad. He's a residential school survivor. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if he didn't survive, if he never made it home. But it shows it's a sign of solidarity.
Okay.
It's a sign of unity, where if I just wore an orange shirt if I was the only one person to wear an orange shirt day on this holiday that's coming up, if I was the only one to do it, nobody would bat an eye.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a nation of people doing it, it's a strong statement.
It's got power.
It's got power. Yeah.
So, Harry, we're going to be, one of the reasons we're doing this interview is to educate students and staff and people with schools connected to hopefully the community, but also Riverside School Board. But just looking at this now, 2013, there was a march in British Columbia, and that was your grandfather, Robert Joseph, or Chief
Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe. He was, this was organized, and it was a walk to symbolically demonstrate to how we could have a better relationship between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. Now, you were there with your son. Can you describe that a little bit, that experience on that rainy day, please?
Yeah. There was a whole set of events that went on. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission had their big event in Vancouver at that time, and I had the privilege of escorting Grandpa. He's not my grandpa, he's my son's grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
but I have the privilege of still calling him Grandpa to this day. I was escorting him to meetings upon meetings upon meetings weeks before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission event went on, and through the reconciliation event, met so many different people. I had the mayor of Vancouver. I had his number on speed dial in case Grandpa needed to speak to him. That's how big and important of a person he was in this whole thing. And at the end of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, now the Truth and Reconciliation Commission had a series of events that went on, and some of the testimonials of the residential schools survivors actually did their testimonials there, and I was privy to sit in some. Privy is not a nice word for it, but I was witness to some of them, and some of the atrocities that these children went through, and it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. I can't see my own children going through anything like that. The amount of rage that came up from that, it's heartbreaking. That it is probably the best and easiest word that I can use to describe it. So that the walk itself was I guess the icing on the cake, so to speak. And in preparation for it, as you know, Vancouver is a very rainy city. I had the privilege of driving Grandpa to the event, the start of the event, and it was probably about 7 o'clock in the morning. And on the way there, he started to weep. He started to cry. And only when we parked, I asked him if he was all right. And he told me in his own words and straight out, man for man, I've only seen my dad cry once or twice in my life. And I really felt the pain for Grandpa when he cried. And at this time, he was afraid that nobody was going to show up.
To the march. And in that march, Harry, it was covered by media. I read the articles online. Between 50 and 100,000 people, right? I
would say over 100,000 people showed up to walk. I'm getting choked up.
No, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
Now, Harry, 2015, Truth and Reconciliation Commission publishes a final report. They detail the experiences and impacts of the residential school system, creating a historical record of its legacy and the consequences. We're talking about 150,000 Indigenous children who were taken away from their homes, their communities, forced to attend over 100 residential schools across Canada. An estimated 3,200 of these children died from tuberculosis, malnutrition, and other diseases. They're in this Reconciliation Commission published final report. There were 94 calls to action that were brought forth, dealing with a wide range of things such as welfare, education, health, justice, language, and culture. And when I was reading the article, why is it important? Because to recognize the historical and ongoing wrongs that were perpetrated against Indigenous people and the legacy of colonialism that's still in place to this day. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, Harry, on that, please?
Well, the calls to action are, in writing and in theory, are great. Up until the point when the Canadian government doesn't follow up on them. Mm-hmm. They can spew as much whatever. Yeah. They can tell you so many truths of promises, but until those promises come true, then the calls to action are just words on a paper.
Yeah. So there needs to be action to back up the talk, right?
There needs to be action to the calls.
Okay. So now, Harry, we have the federal government comes forward and creates a new holiday called September 30th, a day for reconciliation to remember the people that were, Indigenous people that were forced to go to these residential schools, some who didn't come back. You as a First Nations Mohawk man, what are your thoughts of hearing that this was a new holiday being brought forth?
Again, I have to say the government better put their money where their mouth is,
Okay.
and following up on this the holiday that they're put out there, and I'd like to say that it's not a holiday to celebrate. I'd like to think of it as a First Nations person talking to a non-Indigenous person. I would say to you, it's a time to try and educate yourself on the atrocities of what happened. Do a little bit of homework on why wear an orange shirt day. It's not just a day off of work. It has to have meaning, and if that meaning isn't followed through with some knowledge, then it's not gonna go through. I know there's some provinces that aren't following the directive, if that's what we want to call it, and even some of the organizations here in Montreal aren't following it.
I believe Quebec, Ontario, and some other provinces aren't going
recognizing
to
it.
adopt it as a holiday. When I looked at the word in the dictionary, Harry, of reconciliation, it means to restore to friendly relations. When you and I were talking today, you were talking to me about, for you to reconcile, this has to do with the heart. Can you share a little bit about that?
Reconciliation, it's kind of like, speaking to most First Nations people, reconciliation is a bad word. Automatically they jump to the relations between the First Nations and the government, or the First Nations and the neighboring communities. That's not what it's about. I believe in my heart that reconciliation comes from the heart. If you're able to reconcile with a neighbor who's done you wrong, whatever, it could be a minuscule thing, or they could have stole your lawnmower. If they come back to you and say, look, I'm sorry I did this to you, I'm sorry these words came out of my mouth, I'm sorry I did this action that hurt you, and if you have it in yourself to forgive them, not forget, but if you have it in your heart to forgive them, you're on the right road to reconciliation. And I really, really believe that resonated with me. That was some of the words that I heard Grandpa speak about in the times that I was with him, and that really resonated with me. That it's not necessarily the relationship that you're looking to achieve, and the or actually it is the relationship that you're looking to achieve, but not necessarily on a political aspect or a government aspect. It could be me and you. You could have done me wrong 5 years ago, but if I found out that at that time you were on the wrong path, I didn't know that back then, so I didn't want to forgive you back then. But now I know what you've been dealing with or going through. Let's just say you stole my lawnmower. You couldn't afford to buy your own lawnmower, and you couldn't afford to pay somebody to cut your grass, so you stole mine and you painted it. I didn't know that you were on troubled times or hard times.
Understood.
So now, turning around,
there's an awareness.
You let me know that you were having troubled times. You were going through a rough time in your life. I'm able to forgive you.
So now, Harry, from again, as a citizen, I'm a Canadian, born here in Quebec, and reading and hearing about this ancestry and these atrocities, I'm thinking that citizens, not just government in this country, but we need to, whether you're a student, teenager, young adults, we need to educate ourselves. We need to care about this. We need to learn about this. What are your thoughts about that?
I'd say you're spot on. You nailed that last nail in the coffin.
Okay.
It's educating yourself on the situations that are at hand, whether it be political or personal. Your relationship with, and I'm not just talking about First Nations, but I'm talking about in general. There's all types of reconciliation, and it doesn't have to be First Nations, non-First Nations. It could be like I said,
two kids in the schoolyard who had a disagreement, right?
But they're cousins.
Yeah.
They're not going to act like that at the supper table.
Yeah, I hear you. Harry, what is it, having students, staff from Riverside schools or just citizens and from the community on September 30th wearing an orange shirt, maybe walking, watching this video, reading, researching, educating, how does that make you feel to know that people are going to be doing that?
I welcome it. I wholeheartedly welcome it. That's symbolic, very symbolic for people outside of First Nations communities to embrace that. It's welcomed. I believe it's welcomed. It's welcomed by me. I encourage everybody to participate in this because it's not going to go away. I mean, the unearthing of the first 215 bodies was heartbreaking, and it still is heartbreaking, and that's kind of in the media right now, and probably the reason why we're having this holiday. We're well above 6,000 children being found buried, and they didn't even go through a third of the residential schools yet. So with that being said, maybe a comment that I mean, I know you read it through in your research and my research too, is probably 150 students or children that were taken away from their families. I'm guessing it's more, 250,000.
Even more. And Harry, one last thing, because you mentioned it before to me. One of the reasons the government was taking away these children over the last many years, and up to, I think, 1990 something, the last residential school closed. And as you said, it's not that long ago. Mm-hmm. But one of the main reason was they wanted to take those children away. And there was an expression you said to me, to take the
Indian out of them.
So you said, they would go, they would shave their, the boy's head, the hair, not allowed to speak their native language, their first language.
Yeah. Well, my dad was a residential school survivor, and probably one of the first things he didn't speak about it too often, and only when there was certain times when he did speak about it, it was kind of his escape or his happy times that he actually had at the school. He made a lot of friends, and they did a lot of things. They played basketball. They was on a championship hockey team or whatever. He does have some good memories about it, but he never divulged any of the atrocities that happened to him. But I'm just guessing as soon as he walked into the school, they cut his hair. As a First Nations child, I always had long hair. I'm bald now, but I always had long hair, and I always found it was just that was just me. Yeah.
It was part of who you were, your identity, your energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure that all these children that went to these residential schools, they were stripped of that. They were stripped of their identities. Mm-hmm. I'm even confident in saying some of them their names were taken away from them, and they were given numbers. So, as a child, we're in our 50s now, and even when I was younger, 16 years old, 17 years old, when it came into my life that my dad was in these residential schools, I thought about, well, how come you didn't fight back? How come they not only did they take them out of their homes and out of the communities, they took them out of the province.
They wanted to totally assimilate them into the mainstream Canadian.
That was the end goal. Yeah. That was the end game for it, was to take the Indian out of them, beat the Indian out of them. And I used we're not Indians, we're First Nations. But at the time, it was to get the Indian beat the Indian out of the children, get the Indian out of the children. And the easiest way for them to do that was to put them in these schools, which I'll use loosely, and I don't want to go that way right now, but
institutional settings.
Even that's candy coating it. Put them in these schools. That was the plan of the Canadian government at the time, was to take their identity away, take their heritage away, take their language away. Because if their language dies and their heritage dies, they, as a nation, wouldn't be able to continue and prosper as a nation. So they try to kill the Indian in these kids. And luckily, we were very, very resilient people, and we did not allow that to happen. So there's a huge testimonial to the residential school survivors, those who made it home, those who came home and did the best that they can, the best of their abilities to raise children and continue on the building the nation. It's hard to talk about, but then again, it's something I think that needs to be expressed. I'm gonna go a little bit deep with my dad. My dad loved me and my sister with all his heart. I know that. But knowing what I know now, even that was taken from him as a child. There was no love and compassion for these kids. So when he came home as a teenager, it was that love and compassion wasn't there for him, and for him to embrace it, and then him having a relationship with my mom, and them raising me and my sister. I know in his heart that he wanted to love us more, but he didn't know how to express it. I know this.
And Harry, I want to thank you for letting me to walk with you, to listen, to let you educate me and the others, that we get educated, that we learn about these atrocities, about this history here in this country where we live, so that we don't allow it to ever happen again.
Yeah.
So, and like your grandfather in 2013, who organized that amazing walk, and you were there with your son. I hope that we do him proud, that you and I today are here.
Yeah.
And that as we transmit this video to the schools and the students and the staff and the community, we continue that walk. And as he had said, to bring Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal people together and to go forward as human beings.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
Like I said about my dad, I have no ill feelings towards him whatsoever. Yeah. I know he loved us to the best of his ability. Yeah. And knowing what I know now, me growing up as an adolescent and then an adult and obviously a father and now I'm a grandfather. Wow. I'm trying to change. I'm doing the best I can to
do better.
To do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all want to as human beings, don't we?
And that's a testimonial to my dad, because he wanted to do better. He would be very proud.
Yeah. As we say in Mohawk, correct me if I pronounce it wrong, Nyawan.
Nyawa.
Nyawa, meaning thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And to you and the First Nation Mohawk people, we will not forget. Thank you.
Thank you.